Hello to all CENIMASTER lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. The story begins in Austria, where a family is sitting at the dinner table eating. This family consists of Sarah, her sister Amy, their mom, and dad, Don. After dinner, Sarah gets up and tells Don that she will be out late. Don is surprised and asks why. Sarah explains that she's going to a party and that her mom has known about it for a week. Don immediately tells her no, saying it's his final decision and not up for discussion. Upset, Sarah storms off to her room but ends up sneaking out through the window. Her boyfriend Chris is waiting for her outside on his motorcycle, and they head to the party. Later, Sarah's mom decides to check on her to make amends before bed. When she knocks on Sarah's door and gets no response, Don joins her. They knock repeatedly, but no one answers. Don uses the spare key to open the door and discovers that Sarah tricked them and escaped through the window. Meanwhile, Sarah is at the party enjoying herself. When the party ends, Chris takes her back home. Sarah sneaks around the back of the house to climb back into her room through the window, but to her shock, Don is waiting for her at the door. He tells her to enter the house like a normal person. As she approaches the door, she tells Don that when she turns 18, she will leave the house for good. Don, enraged, tells her that as long as she lives in his house, she must follow his rules. Sarah angrily pushes past him and runs to her room. Later, Amy and their mom go to comfort Sarah and tell her not to be upset with her dad. Sarah responds by calling him crazy and reiterates that she will leave the house when she turns 18. Her mom advises her to have a plan if she's serious about leaving. Sarah confidently replies that she already has a plan. She will travel the world, starting with Florida. Her mom reluctantly agrees, saying she can't stop her, but insists that she stay in touch. Unfortunately, Don overhears this conversation, which angers him further. He goes to the basement to think and recalls a secret room hidden there. After some contemplation, he opens the room, stands there for a while, then closes it again and returns to his chair. Days pass, and Sarah's 18th birthday finally arrives. She is on the phone with Chris, discussing whether they should travel by boat or plane. Don enters her room and asks her to help him carry a box to the basement. Sarah agrees and helps him. When they reach the basement, Don opens the secret room. Sarah, curious as she's never seen the room before, asks what it is. Don explains that it was a shelter built during the war. He tells her to place the box in the corner. As soon as she does, Don sneaks out of the room, locks the door behind her, and leaves. Sarah starts banging on the door, thinking he's joking, but Don ignores her. She finds her belongings packed inside the box and realizes Don had planned this. The room is soundproof, so no one can hear her cries for help. Sarah tries entering the code to unlock the door, but after several failed attempts, the electricity cuts off. Don, meanwhile, locks up the basement and restores everything to its original state. When night falls, Sarah's mom and sister grow worried about her and start calling her friends, but no one knows where she is. Meanwhile, Sarah spends her first day locked in the secret room, shouting and banging on the door to no avail. She continues trying to open the door, but the power keeps shutting off due to incorrect code entries. This cycle continues for 3 days. On the 4th day, Sarah hears Don entering the basement. She hides behind a wall and, when he opens the door, pushes past him and escapes. However, she finds herself facing another locked door with a different code. She bangs on the door, but no one hears her. Don catches her, drags her back by her hair, and locks her inside again. Sarah demands to know why he's doing this. Don explains that life is about actions and consequences, and her disrespect led to this outcome. Sarah protests that she can't survive in the room due to lack of air, but Don reveals that he controls the ventilation and will provide air only when he feels like it. He tells her that if she needs anything, she must ask him, but everything comes with a price. He then approaches her in a disturbing manner, leaving Sarah confused and scared. Unfortunately, Don assaults her. Days later, Sarah's mom files a police report. When the officer visits their home, Don lies, saying that Sarah had planned to leave once she turned 18 and likely left of her own will. The officer, based on his experience, assures them that she probably left voluntarily and will return eventually. Chris later visits to ask about Sarah, but Don lies again, claiming she left with a friend. He tells Chris that they'll inform Sarah he asked about her if she contacts them. On the 21st day, Don brings Sarah a birthday cake and a red dress as a gift. He tells her to wear the dress. And when she does, he says she can ask for anything she wants. Sarah asks to be released, but Don refuses, saying it's too soon. She then requests a watch, and Don agrees, but only after exploiting her. He eventually gives her the watch, so Don looked at her and told her that everything costs, as she agreed. Unfortunately, he did what he wanted and then brought her the watch. On the 38th day, While eating, Sarah discovers that the lid of her food container is sharp enough to be used as a weapon. She hides it, planning to attack Dawn. Days later, when Dawn enters the room, Sarah, wearing the red dress, attempts to stab him. However, he overpowers her and uses the weapon against her. From that point on, Sarah remains trapped in the room for many more days, eventually reaching day 354. Unfortunately, at that time, Sarah was pregnant and about to give birth on the same day. Indeed, Sarah gave birth to her first child, a girl, and named her Mary. One day, Dawn came to visit Sarah as usual, bringing a bag with some things in it. Among the items, he had placed a knife to see how Sarah would react. When Sarah opened the bag and saw the knife, she held it, but then threw it away, having lost hope and realizing there was no solution with him. She took the food from the bag and went to feed her daughter. After 4 years, Sarah became pregnant again, and Mary had grown up. At that time, Dawn brought them a television to entertain themselves and continued to provide them with what they needed from time to time. 7 years later, Sarah had a son and a daughter. By then, Mary, her daughter, had fallen ill and was waiting for Dawn to bring her medicine. However, when Dawn brought the medicine, it turned out to be unsuitable for children. Sarah shouted at him, saying the medicine wasn't for kids. Dawn got angry and told her that she was the mother and needed to figure things out. Afterward, he left. 9 years later, Sarah gave birth to another son and named him Thomas. She asked Dawn to take the baby upstairs because the place was too small to accommodate 3 children. Dawn agreed and took the baby, leaving him at the doorstep with a message from Sarah to her mother. The message explained that the baby was her son named Thomas, and that she was living with a friend and had no time to raise him. She asked her mother to take care of him and promised to visit soon to check on them. Her mother, deeply moved, took the baby inside. However, Dawn later discovered that Sarah had left another message under the baby, revealing the truth to her mother, that Sarah was being held captive under the house. Dawn took the message, went downstairs, and threw it in Sarah's face. 14 years passed and Sarah's children had grown. Unfortunately, she was pregnant again. One day, Mary put on makeup and was playing around. When she came out to show them her look, Dawn grabbed her and commented on how beautiful she looked. Sarah, witnessing the situation, quickly moved Mary away and warned Dawn not to approach or touch her again. The children, confused, watched without understanding what was happening. 17 years later, during a rainy winter, water began leaking into their room. When Sarah saw the water dripping from the ceiling, she suspected it might be an escape route. She spent the entire night digging at the spot where the water was leaking. After hours of digging, she managed to uncover a drainage cover. She used a flashlight to signal for help. A neighbor walking their dog noticed the flashlight and went to Dawn's house to inquire. Dawn reassured the neighbor and said he would check it out. Once the neighbor left, Dawn went downstairs and beat Sarah. She was pregnant at the time, and the beating caused her to miscarry. The next day, Dawn found Sarah had wrapped the deceased baby in a sheet and placed it on the table. Without a word, Dawn took the baby to bury it. 18 years passed, and the children started asking Dawn to let them out, wanting to know what was happening outside. Dawn became angry and told them it was up to their mother, not him. When he left, the children questioned Sarah about what was happening and why they were still locked in the room. Overwhelmed and unable to answer, Sarah became frustrated and started breaking things. After calming down, she decided to tell them the truth. She explained everything from the time she was 18 until the present. The children were deeply affected and couldn't believe such a thing was possible. The next day, Dawn came down and scolded Sarah as usual. This time, however, her son lost his temper, attacked Dawn, and insulted him. Dawn left the room and cut off their electricity as punishment. While upstairs, Dawn decided to get rid of them once and for all. He connected a hose to his car's exhaust pipe and directed it into their room to fill it with toxic gas. Fortunately, Thomas entered the garage, interrupting Dawn's plan. Dawn calmed down and decided not to go through with it. After 20 years, Mary became gravely ill and was on the verge of death due to respiratory issues. She urgently needed to be taken to the hospital. At that time, Dawn was hosting a party upstairs to celebrate Thomas's graduation. After the party, Dawn went downstairs and found Mary dying. Sarah begged him to take Mary to the hospital, but Dawn refused, saying they could never leave. Sarah pleaded, reminding him that Mary was Thomas's sister and would die without help. Dawn finally agreed on the condition that only he and Sarah would go, and she would follow his instructions without speaking to anyone. Sarah agreed. Dawn took Sarah and Mary to the hospital, where Mary was immediately placed in intensive care. Her heart had stopped, but after multiple attempts, the doctors managed to revive her. A doctor approached Sarah and Dawn with a form to fill out Mary's information. When the doctor handed the form to Sarah, Dawn snatched it. The doctor felt something was off but didn't pursue it. While Dawn was distracted filling out the form, Sarah spilled a glass of water on it. Dawn left to dry the form, instructing Sarah to stay put. Seizing the opportunity, Sarah searched for the doctor to tell her everything. She finally found the doctor and followed her, but Dawn saw her and chased after her. Fortunately, Sarah reached the doctor first and revealed everything. A nearby police officer overheard the story. Realizing his cover was blown, Dawn Don tried to flee the hospital. The officer chased and caught him. The police accompanied Sarah back to the house to verify her story. They found her son in the room, barely alive due to the lack of ventilation. And so, the police saved Sarah and her children and arrested Don. After that, Sarah, her mother, and her sister sold the old house because it reminded them of bad things. They bought a new house by the sea and decided to start a new life. Forget the past and everything that happened in it. Also, after some time, Chris went to Sarah at her house and told her, "I'm sorry I didn't look for you," and believed what Don said. At that moment, Sarah was surprised that all this time he had been thinking about her and hadn't gotten married yet. Chris promised her that they would start a new life and make up for all the lost days. The movie ended there. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, make sure to subscribe for more awesome content. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.